Sitting on this nice homey front porch with the beadboard ceiling and the plank floor, stucco and trim all around, feels very much as if it must have when the house was first built, which is sometime between 1911 and 1913. We're in Rogers Park on a nice old-time street filled with classic houses and multi-flat homes. You can tell how comfortable and happy people are to live here just by looking at the gardens. The front garden of this house and others along the block, really nicely done, so nicely done that they look good right now in the fall. So you can sit here on your porch and imagine 1913, or feel that it's 2012. The house has been very well updated, but you'll see when we go inside, extensive updates combined with a real love of the origins of the home. The house was built from a Sears kit, so its general outline is very similar to that of other houses in the neighborhood and also in the larger Chicago area, but you can see that it's been individualized. It's really been personalized today, but in a way that is, again, true to the way the house originated. These nice oak frames around the windows, not original, but fit right in. Same with the leaded glass here that flanks the fireplace. That was flat glass when these sellers moved in, but they did this to sort of bring out the original character or enhance the original character. And that is really true right here. They had a brick fireplace, covered over the brick because it had been painted a million times, put this nice new stone over it, and in the process also created this nice set of flanking bookcases that fit right in with the original vintage of the house. Speaking of original, some of the molding around the ceiling here and in other places is salvaged from another Sears home. You can't differentiate one from the other. You can't find the individual pieces, but they actually have stayed true to the home's origins. And in the dining room, I've met David Douglas, who's one of the two sellers of the house. David, this room is amazing. We've already talked about the Sears heritage of this house, but you told me that when you got here, all this wainscoting was in the condition it is now, right? The beams were in the condition that it is now?
The room has been the most untouched of any room that we've had to work on or wanted to work on. It was all the same, all the condition of the woodwork, everything. We just picked up a rug and found that the floor had never even been touched.
But the amazing thing you did is these windows. This is terrific. This has such a wonderful arts and crafts feeling, but it's a recreation. You did this, right?
That's right. When we first bought the house and moved in, those were just clear glass windows, and discovered quickly that we couldn't really have a party in the dining room, a dinner party, because there was a very, very bright security light on our neighbor's house next door. It was blinding.
Oh.
But then I had thought of stained glass for the windows anyway, and then thought, well, that's perfect. Then at night the stained glass is backlit.
Oh, that's great.
And so it's beautiful.
And then what you did is you worked hard to make sure that it actually suits the era of this house, which I think is a wonderful thing. Tell me about that.
Well, we just happened to have in the neighborhood a really wonderful art glass worker, Harmony Art Glass on Clark Street at Devon. And that company has been in business really since the 19th century, and they have catalogs from 1913 that they could, when the house was built, that we could use for the windows. So it's a pattern that they didn't have when stained glass to begin with, but it could have been there.
They made another good move featuring windows here in a small porch that's outside the dining room. This, when the sellers arrived, was a breezy, cold porch that you couldn't really use in the winter. They put in these nice insulated windows. These are not the only new windows. Throughout the house, they've put in new weatherized windows so that the house is much more airtight, weathertight than it would have been when it was built. And then the kitchen here, which feeds into the dining room and into the porch, was upgraded when they arrived. They've got really nice cherry cabinets, a pretty butcher block island, and a terrific Viking stove with a big hood. It melds the two eras, when the house was built 100 years ago and when it was brought back up just a few years ago. On the second floor, you can really see why these homes were called American Foursquares. It had 4 square bedrooms. They've done some great expansion, especially here in the front, where they combined 2 rooms into one very large master. They added a closet at one end. I think you could upgrade by taking the entire other end of the room and adding even more closets. But you've got a nice view out over the street, big space where you can have both sleeping and sitting areas. It's terrific. Now, before I talk about what they did over here, I want to go upstairs to another expansion where they took the attic, which was just useless space, and upgraded it to a nice, what they've got now is sort of a double office, but it could be a playroom, it could become a master bedroom. Really nice windows at both ends, you could catch a breeze, it's very well organized for storage. But back down on this floor, you've got these 2 bedrooms on this side and a bath. The bath, the first thing they did when they moved in, again, was done in a way that feels vintage. It's got the nice tile with the chair rail that feels as if it's got some history. And then on this side of the floor, you have the two bedrooms, which are essentially even, but this one has something extra. You've got the third porch off one of those two bedrooms, the third of the house's porches, and like the other one downstairs, it's been winterized. It was not before they got here, so it becomes this nice little retreat. And from up here, we look down at their great yard. When they got here, it was what they called the place where plants went to die because it's nearly in complete shade. So they did what a lot of people do. They gave up trying to plant and created a nice big deck. So you've got this great complex of decks where in the summer lots of entertaining and reading and everything else can happen. But they also have enough space to plant shade plants and have done so. But what they're doing out there is taking advantage of the wonderful setting beneath these two great big trees that are believed to be just as old as the house.